You can't just sweep in and be my savior, Ayo. That's not how life works. No? He said, a playful yet serious glint in his eye. Well, let me flip the script, because I'm definitely doing a flying leap into your chaotic world, and I have no intention of landing alone. Khalilah felt a smile tug at her lips, the kind born out of reckless abandon. Fine, but you better catch me if I fall. Count on it, Ayo replied, laughter dancing behind his voice, his eyes sparkling as if the world outside had faded, leaving only them amidst the looming danger. Yet, both knew the laughter could only echo for so long before the realities of their lives began to intrude again. Scene 11. Ayo's confession. The late afternoon sun spilled honey gold over the marble floors of Ayo's penthouse, casting playful shadows on the walls adorned with contemporary art. Khalilah leaned against the sleek kitchen island, her fingers tracing the rim of a glass filled with chilled mint-infused lemonade, a hint of nervous energy sparking in the air between them. Do you ever wonder what it feels like to be truly free? Ayo's voice broke the silence, deep and resonant. He leaned casually against the counter, yet the tension in his posture suggested he wasn't entirely at ease. Khalilah raised her gaze. Free? She echoed, her brow furrowing, the intrigue of the question hanging in the air like incense. In your world, Ayo, isn't freedom just another cage adorned with gold? Ayo's jaw clenched, and he tore his focus from a nondescript spot on the floor to meet her questioning eyes. You know what it's like to have choices, but what if those choices come at a cost? His shoulders tensed, the weight of his words palpable, as though he were carrying a boulder atop them. What if your freedom means compromising the safety of those you care about? That sounds like a trap, she said, her tone firm yet understanding. She stepped closer, sensing the fragile layers beneath his bravado. You don't have to carry their burdens alone. A faint smile flickered across Ayo's lips, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. That's just it, Khalilah. I'd rather bear the worst myself than let anyone else suffer. I've always thought it was my responsibility. He paused, the confession unfurling like delicate petals between them. But sometimes those choices feel like a noose. Khalilah's heart fluttered as the vulnerability in his voice struck a chord. She took another step, closing the distance between them, the cool scent of the lemonade fading behind the warmth of his body. Ayo, it doesn't have to be that way. Maybe. I chose this life, he interrupted, a fierce edge softening his gaze. I dove into the shadows willingly, thinking I could control it. But with every decision, I lose a piece of myself. And now... His voice trailed off, as if the weight of unsaid words filled the space between them. Now what? She urged, emboldened by the electric charge of their moment. Now I find myself wanting something different, something more, he replied, vulnerability pouring from him like the sunlight that softened the edges of the penthouse. But I don't know if I can have it. Khalilah felt a pang in her chest, a mix of compassion and connection thrumming through her veins. You want more? She teased lightly, though her heart raced for the deeper truth shimmering beneath the surface. Like what? To take up pottery? Maybe a candle-making class? A low chuckle escaped Ayo, lightening the moment even as his eyes searched her face, gauging her reaction. Or perhaps just to live without looking over my shoulder. Or to be a little selfish, she suggested, her voice playful yet earnest. It's okay to want things for yourself. Selfish isn't a luxury I can afford, he countered, but the glimmer of a smile was unmistakable despite the shadows pooling beneath his expression. You're telling me a crime boss has no time for a little self-indulgence? Khalilah arched an eyebrow, an unexpected bravado igniting within their exchange. He looked at her, that enigmatic storm brewing behind his calm exterior. I'm not just a crime boss to you, am I? You want to dig deeper. Maybe I don't want just the surface, she admitted, her breath hitching as their bodies drew closer. The crackling tension transformed the space around them, a thick heat lingering in the air, the world outside fading into a blur. Ayo's expression shifted, an electric charge running through him as he stepped toward her, closing the gap until their breaths mingled. Then let's dig deep together, he murmured, and in that instant, their worlds collided. Khalilah felt the brush of Ayo's fingertips against her cheek, a stunning contrast to the weight of their previous conversation. As their lips met, it was a soft yet urgent dance, tenderness mingling with the intensity of their confessions. She melted into the kiss, feeling the warmth of his presence envelop her like a spring breeze. Gentle yet stirring. The intensity of emotions swirled like a temperature change from winter to summer as Khalilah breathed him in, realizing that perhaps in this moment they were finally unraveling, layer by layer. Just as the kiss deepened and the barriers enclosing their hearts began to crumble, the world outside faded to a whisper, leaving only the sound of their hearts beating in synchrony, until suddenly he pulled back slightly, his dark eyes searching hers. "Khalilah," he whispered, "I need you to understand." She smiled softly, her cheeks tinged with warmth. "I think I'm starting to." As they lingered in that moment, suspended between past and future, hope flickered between them like a candle's flame, fragile yet powerful, igniting a path towards something beautifully uncharted. Scene 12. Family Revelations Part 1. Khalilah Raye stands in her vibrant, sun-drenched studio, surrounded by canvases splattered with brilliant hues of cerulean and gold. She adjusts the thin straps of her loose-fitting sundress, the fabric brushing against her warm skin in the gentle breeze coming through the window. The fading sunlight casts a warm glow, momentarily blurring the chaos of the day as she bends down to pick up a paintbrush. Suddenly, her phone buzzes on the table, the sharp noise slicing through the calm. She glances at the screen, a name she hasn't seen in years. Her heart races, a mix of anxiety and curiosity blooming in her chest. "Khalilah," she mutters under her breath. With a hesitant finger, she swipes to answer, the name echoing in her mind like a faded ghost. "Hello," she greets, letting the voice envelop her like an old sweater, familiar, yet full of shadows. "Khalilah, it's me, your mother." A flash of anger ignites within her. The very presence of her mother conjures memories of abandonment and confusion. "What do you want?" she replies, the edge in her voice unmistakable. "We need to talk. There are things about our family you don't know." Khalilah clenches her jaw, trying to suppress the rising tide of resentment. "If it was so important, why haven't you shared these things before?" Silence hangs thick on the line. Khalilah breathes heavily, can feel her pulse thundering like a war drum against her temples. "Didn't you have years to tell me?" "Sweetheart, it's complicated." Her mother's voice quivers, the tension palpable even through the phone. "There are connections that affect your life now, especially with Ayo." Khalilah's stomach twists violently at the mention of Ayo. "What do you know about Ayo?" "More than you think. You need to understand the truth, Khalilah. Please, come home." The plea hangs in the air, heavy and suffocating. Khalilah's breath slows, her mind races, grappling with the idea of family ties, interwoven with the undeniable tension she shares with Ayo Kanala. She can almost feel his presence behind her, a solid warmth that promises protection, yet is fraught with a dangerous allure. "Fine," she finally says, her voice steadier than she feels. "I'll be there." After ending the call, the weight of uncertainty settles in the room. The softening light beckons, but it can no longer soothe her frayed nerves. Khalilah sets down the phone, gazing at the vibrant canvas before her. Swirls of color now seem to mimic the twisted emotions roiling within. Just then, Ayo enters the studio, tall and commanding, disrupting the tranquility. He pauses, taking in the chaotic beauty of her workspace, a world of textures and colors that is so vividly Khalilah. His dark eyes flicker with warmth, but question her tension immediately. "What's wrong?" Khalilah turns to him, the weight of her revelations hovering dangerously in the air. "My mother called." His brow furrows slightly. "What did she want?" "Family secrets and you." The last word slips out, trailing off into the space between them like a soft melody. Ayo steps closer, his presence enveloping her as he reaches out, brushing his knuckles against her forearm, a tender, intimate gesture laden with promise. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Khalilah fights the impulse to lean into him, the warmth of his body drawing her like gravity. It's not that simple. Nothing in life worth having is simple. His voice deepens, filled with an intensity that ignites a thrum of electricity across her skin. "You face this together, or I won't let you face it at all." She searches his eyes, a tempest of emotions mirrored in his gaze, determination, understanding, and a hint of something more profound. The air between them crackles, intoxicating and charged with unsaid words and unfulfilled desires. "Can we just," Khalilah whispers, overwhelmed, but he cuts her off gently, pulling her close until their foreheads touch. "Just breathe," he murmurs, the warmth of his breath mingling with hers. Time slows, the chaos of the world melting away. She can feel the rising tension pulling them together, something deeper than desire anchoring them in this moment. "Khalilah," he breathes, his voice low and filled with unguarded vulnerability. Her heart pounds fiercely, each beat a whispered promise waiting to be fulfilled. In that charged silence, she lifts her face, capturing the fleeting moment before their lips finally brush together, tentative and electrifying, igniting a fire that she never expected would burn so brightly. The kiss deepens, a beautiful amalgamation of warmth and urgency, as they lose themselves in the swirling emotions, the laughter that dances just beneath the surface, and the tumultuous journey ahead. But outside, the world spins on, the call of her estranged mother lingering in her mind, the past crashing upon them like waves against a rocky shore. Khalilah pulls back, breathless, the reality pressing in as she whispers, "What don't I know?" Scene 13, the gala showdown. The warm glow of the chandeliers glittered like trapped stars above the gathering, mingling with the heady scent of jasmine perfume and lavish chocolate hors d'oeuvres. Deep maroon and gold adorned the walls of the grand ballroom, their opulence an ironic contrast to the tempest brewing beneath the surface. Khalilah Raye stood amidst an array of elegantly dressed guests, her fingers fidgeting with the fringe of her navy gown. She sipped the sparkling champagne, her eyes drifting toward Ayo Kanala, whose commanding presence held court in the corner. "What do you mean you didn't think he'd come?" A voice piped up beside her, snapping her from her guarded reverie. It was her colleague Jada, her face flushed with enthusiasm. "This is Ayo Kanala we're talking about. He lives for this kind of drama." Khalilah's brow furrowed as she leaned closer to Jada. "I thought being low-key was part of the deal." "Low-key?" Jada's laughter rolled like rippling music. "At a gala? Come on, Khalilah, this," she gestured with her glass to the swirling crowd, "is the kind of stage he thrives on." Before Khalilah could respond, a chilling voice cut through the festivities like a knife. "Ayo, you should know better than to flaunt yourself in public." Vincent Marek, Ayo's rival, stood surrounded by his sycophantic entourage, his gaze as icy as the autumn air outside. "You throw parties like it's a declaration of war." A hush fell over the crowd as Khalilah's heart raced, stringing together a web of anxiety and excitement. Ayo, unflinching, met Marek's gaze with an intensity that could burn through steel as he adjusted the cufflinks of his tailored suit. "And you," Ayo said coolly, "should learn that the more you bark, the less impressive you appear." A murmur rippled through the guests, laughter bubbling at the edges like champagne foam. Marek smirked, the keen edge of his smile slicing through the atmosphere. "Is that so? I must admit, I've always found it amusing how bravely you stand when your shadows guard you." "Shadows again?" Ayo replied, his voice low and steady. "How predictable. But no shadows tonight, Vincent. Just me." Khalilah felt the tension knotting her stomach as the two men sized each other up. This wasn't just a contest of egos, it was a dance of dangerous stakes. Around her, whispers erupted, a pricked bubble of gossip ready to explode. Jada leaned in, eyes wide with excitement. "This is unbelievable. I knew they hated each other, but this..." Khalilah's gaze narrowed as she watched Ayo take a single measured step closer to Marek. "You know, I might lean more into the light than you realize. Maybe I'll even invite you to sit in a spotlight next to me, of course. You don't want to miss the show." The crowd erupted into laughter, pulsating with the thrill of the unfolding confrontation. Marek's expression twisted, and Khalilah detected the flicker of something more profound: fear? Awareness? His response was simmering, each word spat like venom. "Bravado suits you, Ayo, but your little display will only have you falling from grace when the truth finally comes out." The chill in the air prickled Khalilah's skin, her heart caught between admiration for Ayo's grit and the impending dread of Marek's reveal. She stepped forward, her voice rising above the din. "What truth do you speak of, Vincent?" The room shifted, breath suspended as Marek's gaze turned sly. "Oh, you'll find out soon enough, Khalilah." Ayo's hand brushed against her back, silently supporting her as he met Marek's malignant stare. "You've overstepped, Vincent," he warned, the danger palpable, yet there was a strength radiating from Ayo that cloaked her like a warm shawl, igniting an unexpected yearning. With each word, each tense exchange, Khalilah felt herself drawn deeper into Ayo's orbit. This wasn't just a battle of words. It was a prelude to something electric desire crackling in the space between them as they braced against the storm of intimidation. "Let's take this outside," Marek sneered, but as he moved, Ayo placed a firm, protective hand on Khalilah's arm, pulling her close. The world beyond them faded. Nothing mattered except the tension between their shared glances. "I won't let anything happen to you," Ayo murmured, a promise wrapped in layers of authority and something softer, almost intimate, that set her skin aflame. "It seems you've more faith in me than I do," she whispered back, the gravity of the moment deepening. In the flickering light and shadow, the battle began to shift. With the echoes of the gala swirling around them, Khalilah sensed that this was more than a showdown. It was the birth of something new, something vibrant, a shared resolve in the heart of chaos. Scene 14, a retreat to safety. The hum of the engine cut through the silence, punctuating the tension in the air as Ayo navigated the narrow, tree-lined road. Khalilah sat beside him, her fingers tapping restlessly against the leather seat. They had fled the gala, where the glamour of swirling gowns and polished smiles now felt like a distant nightmare. The moonlight filtered through the branches, casting fractured shadows over her, illuminating the warmth of her brown skin and the anxious fluttering of her lashes. Khalilah leaned closer, her voice barely breaking the heavy stillness. "You didn't have to bring me here, you know. I could have managed." The flicker of bravado in her words was undermined by the tremor in her hands. Ayo's jaw clenched as he focused on the road. "Manage what? The aftermath of a threat that now extends beyond just your career? You don't have to be brave all the time, Khalilah." He cast a sidelong glance her way, reading the storm beneath her composed exterior. She inhaled sharply, the cool air filling her lungs with the scent of pine and damp earth. "I'm not trying to be brave. I just—" She paused, biting the edge of her lip, debating what to reveal. "I just hate feeling like I'm a damsel in distress." A smirk tugged at Ayo's lips, softening the tension. "You'd make a very poor damsel. Don't think I haven't noticed that you have a penchant for chaos. Remember how you wrangled that photographer guy earlier? Flirted him into revealing information?" He chuckled, shaking his head. Khalilah couldn't help but laugh, momentarily shedding the weight of the evening. He barely knew what hit him. She straightened her posture, mimicking her earlier confidence. "But neither did I, to be honest." This elicited a genuine smile from Ayo, and for a moment, the intensity waned between them. The vehicle rumbled to a stop in a secluded clearing surrounded by towering trees, their branches swaying in the cool night air. "Come on," he said. As he exited the car, the soft glow from the headlights illuminated the quiet sanctuary they had arrived at, creating a stage just for them. Khalilah followed him out, her heart racing as she looked around. The silence felt sacred, holding them in a cocoon away from the world's prying eyes. "Where are we?" she asked, lifting her chin, a mix of curiosity and vulnerability glimmering in her gaze. "Just a place to breathe without the noise." Ayo took a step closer, his presence enveloping her like a protective shield. "You can think here, away from guilt and ambitions." "Guilt?" Khalilah echoed, her voice barely above a whisper as they stood mere inches apart. She felt his breath against her skin, electric and charged. "What do you know of guilt?" He hesitated, once more grappling with how much of himself to reveal. The weight of expectations, of others, of yourself. It's suffocating. He stepped closer, shadowing her with the warmth radiating from his body. "You feel that?" Her breath quickened. "You mean the weight of expectations surrounding my family?" Every decision feels like a step off a cliff. A silence hung between them, teetering on the brink of something unspoken. Ayo reached out, brushing a stray curl behind her ear, his fingers lingering at her temple. "You're not stepping off, you're ascending." Khalilah breathed deeply, forgetting the chaos of her world for a heartbeat, their eyes locked together, deep pools of understanding and desire. "Ayo," she began, her voice trailing off as she searched for the right words, but only emotion surged forth. Before the words could tumble into existence, Ayo closed the space between them, capturing her face with his hands and drawing her closer. The warmth radiating from him was intoxicating, stealing the breath from her lungs. He leaned in, almost hesitant, as if daring her to retreat. But Khalilah remained rooted, her heart drumming in her chest. Their lips met in a sweet collision, punctuated by the exhilaration of risk and the promise of connection. It was gentle yet fierce, igniting sparks every time they shifted against one another. The chaos momentarily faded. All that existed was the warmth of his body and the cadence of their heartbeat. He pulled back for just a moment, searching her eyes. Khalilah, but the words vanished as her fingers tangled into his curls, drawing him back into the embrace, drowning in the rush of unfiltered passion. She answered with her kiss, echoing her own unspoken fears and desires. The world blurred around them, fading to an exhilarating darkness filled only with the comfort of shared warmth. As they lingered in the moment, Ayo finally managed, breathless. "No more pretending. You're safe here." Khalilah let his words wash over her like a promise, sealing their fragile truce against the chaos they had escaped. Khalilah pulled back slightly, her pulse racing but her heart steady. "I hope that's true, Ayo. I really hope it is." Scene 15. Choices and Consequences. As the sun dipped below the horizon, streaming a burnished gold light through the expansive windows of the penthouse, Khalilah Raye stood still, her heart caught in a tumultuous dance. The aroma of rich coffee mingled with the faint scent of something sweet, the remnants of a pastry long forgotten on the marble countertop. Khalilah. Each tick of the ornate clock on the wall felt like a judgment against her wavering resolve. Ayo Kanala emerged from the shadows of the adjoining room, his dark presence both a comfort and a threat. He leaned casually against the doorframe, his hands tucked into the pockets of his tailored trousers, the cut of which emphasized the powerful lines of his physique. With a slight tilt of his head, he regarded her with a mixture of amusement and intensity, his eyes glinting like well-polished onyx. "What's going on in that brilliant mind of yours?" Ayo asked, the faintest hint of a smile curving the corners of his mouth. His voice, deep and resonant, wrapped around Khalilah, eliciting a shiver that had nothing to do with the evening chill. Khalilah's breath caught, a flutter of nervous energy coursing through her. She stepped away from the countertop, her body tense, her jaw clenched. "I'm just trying to make sense of everything," she replied, her tone cautious. He stepped closer, bridging the distance that felt both necessary and foreboding. "Sense is overrated. Sometimes it's more about feeling." He paused, his gaze searching hers, daring her to abandon caution. "What are you feeling, Khalilah?" A storm of emotions surged within her, confusion, desire, and a simmering guilt that burned at her like a hot flame. Her thoughts drifted to the vows she'd taken, the promises that once felt unshakable. But Ayo's presence pulled at those bindings, loosening her grip. "I'm conflicted. My marriage means what to you?" Ayo interrupted, his voice abrupt, yet there was no malice, just an urgent need to break through the fog that enveloped her. "It means I'm supposed to want it. I'm supposed to feel whole," she blurted out, the weight of her words hanging in the air like a fragile glass ornament. "But I don't." With a swift movement, he closed the space between them completely, his presence overwhelming yet comforting. The heat radiated from his body, enveloping her, the unmistakable scent of cedarwood reminding her of dark, seductive nights. Ayo reached up, brushing a stray curl behind Khalilah's ear, his fingers lingering on her skin, igniting sparks of longing. "Then what do you want, Khalilah?" His voice had dropped to a whisper, compelling and raw, sending a rush of emotion cascading through her. In the crucible of that moment, Khalilah felt the tight bonds of her heart begin to unravel. She looked into his eyes, where shadows danced beneath the surface, a cauldron of ambition, pain, and an undeniable affection that both thrilled and terrified her. "I want." Her voice faltered, an ember of passion igniting deep inside her, urging her to leap into the unknown. Before she could question her resolve, Ayo leaned down, capturing her lips with his, a swift and insistent caress that left no space for doubt. Her body responded instantly, electricity coursing through her veins as she melted against him. The kiss deepened, exploring the uncharted territories of her soul. Passion poured from them both, an urgent balm over unhealed wounds. Time elongated, every heartbeat echoing with desire and desperation. Khalilah clung to him, feeling the way their worlds intersected, a dangerous dance on the edge of chaos. Panic fluttered in the back of her mind, the sense of her marriage lurking like a shadow. But in that kiss, all she could feel was Ayo, a potent mix of danger and promise, a tantalizing whisper that told her perhaps, just perhaps, it was time to choose herself. They pulled apart reluctantly, breaths mingling, faces mere inches apart, a moment suspended in time, thick with unspoken questions and heavy with choices not yet made. Ayo's eyes pierced through her hesitation. What will you choose? Khalilah's heart pounded, caught in the tension of uncharted waters. I don't know yet, she whispered, the weight of her reality tucking the answer deep beneath her skin. Ayo held her gaze, steady and intense. Whatever you decide, Khalilah, I'll be there. Just don't take too long. And at that moment, she understood that the choices ahead were not just for her to make, but for her to own, each consequence a step towards freedom or entrapment, love or loss. Scene 16. Ayo's proposition. The sun dipped low in the sky, casting an amber glow over the terrace garden of Ayo's penthouse. Lush ferns and blooming hibiscus surrounded the intimate space, their vibrant colors a stark contrast to the weight that hung between him and Khalilah. The air was thick with the scent of jasmine, sweet yet heady, evoking memories of summer nights and whispered secrets. Ayo sat at a wrought iron table, fingers drumming nervously against the surface, his dark gaze fixed on her. Khalilah stood nearby, arms crossed, her posture radiating both defiance and vulnerability. Ayo, she began, her voice steady yet edged with uncertainty. I came here for a story, not this, whatever this is. What if I told you, Ayo replied, his tone shifting as he leaned forward, the confidence exuding from him like heat from the sun, that you could write a more compelling one that transcends your expectations. Khalilah narrowed her eyes. You're not making sense. What do you mean? She stepped closer, the fabric of her mustard yellow dress brushing against the delicate blossoms, releasing a fresh burst of floral scent. Ayo's breath caught in his throat at the sight of the way the light caressed her skin, highlighting her graceful form. But it wasn't just her beauty. It was the complexity in her expression that drew him in. I'm offering you something, an opportunity, Ayo said, his voice lowering, drawing her in like a moth to a flame. You have dreams, Khalilah, bigger than what you're settling for now. I can help you. We could reshape the narrative. Khalilah shook her head, her dark curls bouncing with her motion. If this is about money, it's not about money. He interrupted, a fervor lighting up his chocolate brown eyes. It's about influence, my influence. You could use it to advocate for causes that matter. You could be a voice for those who don't have one. She paused, letting the words wash over her like the gentle breeze that stirred the air. Ayo shifted in his chair, a flash of uncertainty crossing his face. Think about it, he continued, his vulnerability unexpected. You work tirelessly. You deserve to have your impact felt beyond a handful of articles in a magazine. Khalilah took a step back, processing the complexities of his offer. And what's the catch? Do I have to sell my soul for this? Not your soul, Ayo replied, his voice steady. Just consider stepping into a world filled with potential. You speak of change. I can provide a platform. That's power in itself. Her heart hammered in her chest, excitement mingling with skepticism. And you? What do you get out of this? He sighed, tilting his head as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. A chance to protect what I care about, to ensure people I value aren't swept away by the tide of indifference. There it was, his honesty peeling back layers to reveal the man beneath the crime boss facade. Khalilah studied him, the tension between them thickening, almost palpable. You care about your people, she said softly, her expression softening for a fleeting moment. But I'm not sure I'm ready to step away from my life. And you'd be stepping into a world that feels like chaos, he said, a hint of amusement flickering across his lips. But look at us, Khalilah. We're both at a crossroads. Aren't you curious about what's on the other side? She hesitated, the prospect of joining him teasing at deep-seated aspirations, yet laced with trepidation. And what if I fail? Then we'll laugh about it over a ridiculously overpriced drink, he smirked, breaking the tension like a twig snapping in the quiet woods. But you won't, you. He took a breath, his gaze fiery and compelling. You're too talented for that. Khalilah inhaled sharply, the weight of his words igniting a spark she thought long extinguished. But what awaited her was no mere adventure. It was a leap into a whirlwind that could consume everything she thought she understood about herself. "Fine," she said, her voice steadier now. "But if we're doing this, I want all the details. No surprises." Ayo grinned, the weight on his shoulders seeming to lift as he stood and closed the distance between them. "I promise. Just never underestimate yourself again." His voice lowered, almost a whisper now. "I believe in you." As he leaned closer, the world around them faded into a harmonious blend of laughter, ambition, and uncharted dreams. A tantalizing promise of what lay ahead. Scene 17, Secrets Revealed. Dark wood paneling lined the walls of Ayo's office, punctuated only by vibrant artwork that seemed to breathe life into the space. Khalilah stood near his desk, the faint scent of sandalwood lingering in the air, a stark contrast to the brewing storm within her. She clutched a leather-bound notebook, her fingers grazing over its smooth surface, a reflexive motion that grounded her in the fading silence of the room. Khalilah's mind raced. With every tick of the clock, her heartbeat synced to the steady rhythm, a reminder of truths yet uncovered. She had come here with a purpose, an assignment, a professional curiosity to dissect Ayo's world, but now it felt increasingly personal. The photograph that caught her eye was tucked delicately behind a stack of documents, and as she reached to retrieve it, her breath hitched in her throat. It was a candid shot of her, taken at a gala months prior. Khalilah's soft curls framed her face, accentuating her sun-kissed skin, the sparkle in her eyes, capturing the laughter shared with a friend just beyond frame. Yet it was not just the image that startled her. It was the knowledge that Ayo had been privy to this intimate moment, her joy encapsulated within his grasp. Ayo's voice broke through the tension as he stepped into the office. "Khalilah." The deep timbre of his voice was like molten chocolate, both smooth and rich, wrapping around her like a warm embrace. He paused, his gaze flicking to the photograph in her hand. "You found it." "Why do you have this?" she asked, her voice shaky yet steadying as she swallowed her uncertainty. His posture shifted. He leaned against the ornate desk, arms crossed tightly over his chest. It was a moment worth remembering. "Worth remembering? It feels more like spying," she snapped, fire igniting behind her words. "Do you always collect mementos of people you plan to manipulate?" Silence fell between them, thick and heavy, filled with unspoken grievances. Ayo met her sharp gaze with a resolve that both grounded and unsettled her. "I don't manipulate, I protect. There's a difference." "Oh, so you think you're the hero in this little narrative?" Khalilah's voice danced between skepticism and challenge. "That's yet to be seen," he replied, his expression unyielding. "But I don't collect photographs for pleasure, Khalilah." A moment of vulnerability flickered across his face, and Khalilah's breath caught again. "What do you mean?" His shoulders softened, and he stepped closer. "I was investigating something that connects you and your family to a bigger threat than you know. I didn't initially choose to follow you this closely. It just happened." "Just happened?" She stepped back, feeling the weight of his eyes anchor her down. "You're entwining my life with your business without my consent. How can I trust any of this? Any of you?" "There's a reason I kept this from you," Ayo argued, fierce yet tender, his voice dropping an octave. "I wanted to shield you. But now what? Now you think I will understand?" Khalilah's tone sliced through the air, a stark contrast to the way her heart fluttered in response to his proximity. Suddenly, Khalilah's phone buzzed insistently in her pocket, a flurry of notifications echoing her frantic thoughts. She glanced at the screen, her heart sinking. Her best friend's name was emblazoned across the display, seeking her attention in an urgent manner. She hesitated, her eyes darting between the blurring emotions etched in Ayo's expression and the world outside these walls. The photograph still trembled in her grasp, a physical tether to the man she was beginning to know. I need to answer this." "Let them wait," Ayo urged, his intensity unwavering as he took a half step toward her. "This is bigger than that. You are bigger than any distraction." Khalilah nearly laughed, breathless as she felt the tension crackle through the space. "You have a funny way of showing it. First you're spying, then suddenly I'm just bigger?" "Not just bigger." He leaned forward, his voice lowering. "You are the key to unraveling this. You have to trust me, Khalilah. Trust what you feel." A silence enveloped them, ripe with vulnerability as their gazes locked. She could feel the unspoken weight of what lay ahead, a battle of trust and desire, tangled in the shadows of their chaotic worlds. Then tell me the truth. Her demand hung in the air like an unshed breath, potent and promising. I will, Ayo promised, the fervor in his voice calling to something deep within her. But first, let's stop hiding. Scene 18, the betrayal. Rain drummed steadily against the thick glass windows of Khalilah Raye's high-rise office, the rhythm echoing her tumultuous emotions. Lightning flickered, illuminating the darkened room for a fleeting moment, casting long shadows that seemed to draw her deeper into despair. The storm outside mirrored the whirlpool of betrayal swirling inside her heart. With every passing moment, Khalilah felt heavier, as though the very air around her weighed down with her husband's betrayal. Ayo Kanala stood by the window, his tall figure silhouetted against the tempestuous backdrop. He turned, his sharp features etched with concern, as he observed Khalilah curled up in her leather chair, the remnants of her professionalism stripped away. You know, sometimes when it rains, it's like the world is crying with you, Ayo said softly, his deep voice lacing through the room like a soothing balm. Khalilah glanced up, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. It's ironic, she replied, her tone tinged with bitterness. I thought I had everything mapped out. Turns out the universe had other plans. Maybe it's a chance to map new roads? Ayo suggested, his brows knitting together slightly. He took a step closer, the scent of pine and cedar wood wafting from his designer suit, grounding her. Khalilah loved that smell, yet it now felt oddly confining. New roads? She echoed, a humorless laugh escaping her lips. More like a dead end. She clutched her phone tightly, the screen dimmed from persistent notifications she was too scared to check. He was my partner in everything, and now... Her words faltered, the pain choking her voice. Ayo took another step forward, concern deepening in his dark eyes. You know you deserve honesty, respect, not to be blindsided by someone who claimed to love you. His voice dropped, becoming fiercely protective, and I'm here to remind you of that. Khalilah met his gaze, and for a brief moment, the storm outside faded, replaced by a palpable tension that crackled between them. She wanted to lean into that connection, to surrender to the warmth he exuded, yet fear clutched at her heart. She pulled herself back, struggling to reconcile her heart's desires with the messy reality surrounding her. This isn't fair to you, Ayo. You've done enough already. Stop, he said sharply, and for the first time she saw the flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. Don't shut me out. You're hurting, and for once, I want to be the one to help you. His tone softened, the weight of the world settling on both their shoulders. Let me in. She exhaled, her breath shaky. You don't even know me, Ayo. My life's a mess. How can you help? By showing you that you're more than this moment. Ayo stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating off him. You've built so much, Khalilah. One betrayal doesn't define your worth. A shiver of warmth rushed through her, the intensity of his gaze anchoring her. What if I fall? She whispered, fear gripping her heart. I'll catch you, he replied, his voice confident but gentle. And if I don't, we can laugh about it over a drink. Khalilah couldn't suppress the half-smile that tugged at her lips, a glimpse of the vacation vibe she had tried so desperately to hold on to. Do you always make jokes during serious moments? Only the ones worth telling, he retorted, a teasing light glimmering in his eyes. Flirtatious and funny, she mused, the tension wavering just enough for a hint of levity. They'll put that on your resume. You have no idea the things I can do, he said, leaning just slightly closer, their proximity igniting sparks of unacknowledged desire. For instance, I can also wipe away tears and soothe broken hearts. Khalilah's heart raced. Is that a promise or a proposition? Why not both? His eyes glinted with playful mischief, even as the storm raged on outside, the echoes of his words shimmering through the dark clouds that loomed over her. As the raindrops began to fall less aggressively, a sense of calm washed over her momentarily. The thought lingered in her mind, echoing in tandem with the love blooming between them, as a single lightning bolt illuminated the sky again, and the world outside pulsed with life. Just remember, the world may feel chaotic now, Ayo said gently, his voice a protective embrace, but sometimes it's the storms that clear the way for new beginnings. Scene 19. Tension escalates. The low hum of the city echoed outside, a background score for Ayo and Khalilah as they stood in the softly lit apartment, shadows flickering from the candles struggling against the invasion of the mundane world. Ayo leaned against the kitchen counter, his tall frame draped in a fitted black shirt, revealing the strength beneath. Khalilah was spinning old memories in her mind, the scent of freshly brewed jasmine tea hanging in the air, but her heart raced with an unsteady rhythm. Her fingers brushed against the cup's warm porcelain, but she barely noticed it. Ayo broke the moment's electricity first. You can't always plan for everything, Khalilah. Life has a way of tossing the script right out the window. His voice held a gravelly edge, full of truths unsaid. Khalilah's eyes narrowed slightly. And that's what you stand for? Chaos and unpredictability? She took a step closer, driven by something deeper than anger curiosity. Sometimes chaos is the only way to force change, he replied, his gaze steady, challenging her to delve into the labyrinth of his soul. But at what cost? Khalilah countered, her voice quieter now, as if the weight of her question echoed in her body. She edged nearer, her pulse quickening in sync with the rise of tension between them. I've spent years building my career. I won't throw it away on mere impulse. Is that really all you're worried about? He raised an eyebrow, stepping forward, eclipsing her presence with his. What if, in letting go a little, you find yourself? She glanced at him, their faces inches apart. The way his dark eyes softened told her he'd seen her struggle, the self-doubt, the drive, the woman who always had to be in control. It made her throat tighten. Maybe I have no choice but to control what I can. Control is an illusion. He stepped even closer, the scent of sandalwood from his warmth enveloping her. What if I told you that letting go, just for a moment, could be freeing? Khalilah's silent response was electric. The tension in the air became palpable, and she found herself caught in a current between fear and desire. What if I crash? She whispered, almost as a challenge. Ayo's smile was slow and deliberate, a bit mischief gleaming in his eyes. Then I'll save you. It's not that easy, she whispered back, her heart echoing the truth hidden in his promise. You don't know what I've built to survive. He reached out, brushing a lock of hair behind her ear, and a familiar wave of vulnerability washed over her. For a moment, she saw a glimpse of the man beneath the crime boss facade, someone longing to connect above all the chaos. What if rebuilding is better than surviving? Before she could respond, the door burst open, startling them both. Khalilah jumped back, her heart racing as her friend Ty barged in, laughter spilling over him like sunlight. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt any life-altering discussions here. Khalilah shot Ayo a look, half annoyed, half relieved, while Ty continued, Did you forget it's game night? You know, the one where I crush you both at Scrabble? Ayo crossed his arms, unperturbed, still holding Khalilah's gaze. Last I checked, you were still recovering from my vocabulary lesson. Ty laughed, hands on his hips. Yeah, whatever helps you sleep at night. He turned to Khalilah. Come on, don't tell me you're about to bail on me for this guy. He gestured to Ayo, Mr. Shadowy Mystery. Khalilah chuckled softly, but it barely masked the swirl of emotions in her chest. As tempting as your glittering Scrabble trophy sounds, she paused, glancing at Ayo, the air between them thick with unspoken possibilities. I think I'll take my chances here. Ty feigned shock, throwing his hands up dramatically. I should have known. He's got you, huh? Are you okay with a bit of danger, Miss Raye? Ayo's smile deepened, a combination of pride and something more intimate. She's just learning to embrace change. As the words hung in the charged air, Khalilah's cheeks flushed, reality tinged with sweet possibilities. The moment was thick with all the tension, laughter, and connection, a glimpse of what might be. All right, but I expect a full report later, Ty said, stepping back out, grinning like a Cheshire cat. The door clicked shut behind him, leaving a pregnant silence between Ayo and Khalilah. With the space clear again, Ayo stepped closer, their chemistry reigniting. So where were we? Khalilah smiled, daring to imagine a future where desire pulled her into the unknown. I think we were discussing how you're going to save me. Ayo's expression turned serious again, the weight of their reality pressing down. You just might be surprised at what that means. The air electric with unsaid promises, Khalilah took a deep breath, allowing herself to lean into the moment. Love, after all, was a dance fraught with steps yet to learn. Scene 20. Facing the past. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the worn wooden floor of Khalilah's childhood home, its walls adorned with fading photographs that captured smiles in simpler times. The rich scent of her mother's signature gumbo simmered in the kitchen, a bittersweet reminder of warmth and tradition. But today, the air felt thick, charged with an unspoken tension that mirrored Khalilah's racing heartbeat. As she stepped inside, the creaking door echoed her apprehension, a herald of the confrontation that awaited. Khalilah stood in the narrow hallway, her fingers brushing against the cool wall, her breath shallow. She couldn't shake the tightness in her chest, the feeling of impending confrontation as she prepared to face the woman who had shaped her fears of love and acceptance. Ayo, she whispered to herself, trying to summon his strength. Thoughts of him flooded her mind, the way he seemed to exist in dual worlds, but chose to stand by her side, offering reassurance in a storm of chaos. Yet, today was not about romance. It was about healing the rift that threatened to swallow her family whole. In the dim light of the living room, her mother sat quietly, stirring a pot, her silhouette softened by the orange glow of the setting sun. When she heard Khalilah's footsteps, the spoon clattered onto the counter. "Khalilah," her mother said without turning around, her voice a melody that held both comfort and distance. "Mom, can we talk?" Khalilah entered the room, her tone careful, as though stepping onto fragile ground. Her mother finally turned, a mix of surprise and wariness in her eyes. "Is something wrong?" "The question is, what's right?" Khalilah leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed defensively. "We need to discuss everything, starting with the past." Her mother's brow furrowed, but there was a flicker of recognition behind her guarded demeanor, the weight of shared memories lingering like perfume in the air. "Some things are better left unsaid," her mother replied softly, but Khalilah pressed on, the urgency of her quest igniting a fire within her. "I found out about the lies." Khalilah forced herself to keep her voice steady as she moved closer. "About Granddad and the secrets that haunt us, secrets you've kept for years. Why didn't you tell me?" Her mother's silence stretched painfully between them, a chasm filled with unspoken fears and buried pain. Khalilah could see the shadows of regret dance behind her mother's eyes, but a fortress of pride held her tongue captive. "Maybe I wanted to protect you," her mother finally said, her voice a fragile whisper. "Protect me?" Khalilah echoed incredulously. "Or protect yourself, Mom. I live with these fears every day. It's hard to love fully when I feel like I'm standing on quicksand." Her mother's gaze dropped, the weight of generations lingering in the silence. Khalilah seized the moment. "I can't break this cycle. I want to love without fear, to believe I'm worthy of happiness. But how can I if you won't let me in?" The steam from the gumbo curled around them, thick and suffocating, and her mother's shoulders slumped beneath the weight of years unspoken. "Khalilah, love is complicated. It's not the fairy tale you read about. It's hard. It has dark corners. Then let's shine a light in those corners together," Khalilah implored, stepping closer, her heartbeat loud against the stillness. The vulnerability in her mother's expression began to crack the armor of silence. "I lost so much, but for you, I thought I could spare you that pain." With the honesty of their shared history hanging in the air, Khalilah took her mother's hands, their warmth radiating reassurance. "You handed me your strength, but I need to know the truth of our family. We can carry it together." A long pause enveloped them, heavy yet necessary, until her mother finally sighed, the tension easing slightly. "You're right. You deserve the truth," she said, squeezing Khalilah's hands. A flicker of hope ignited within them, and in that moment, Khalilah felt a glimmer of what love could be, a bridge, a healing bond. Just then, the door swung open, and Ayo stepped in, his confident presence filling the doorway as he surveyed the scene. "Everything all right?" he asked, sensing the shift in the atmosphere. Khalilah exchanged a quick glance with her mother, finally daring to smile, something bright sparking within her. "I think we're about to face some truths." Ayo nodded, a knowing smile playing at the corners of his lips. "Good, truth is a powerful thing." And as Khalilah stood there, flanked by her mother's warmth and Ayo's protective gaze, she felt the tendrils of her past loosening their grip, preparing for the promise of a new love that would embrace both the light and the shadow. Scene 21. Sacrifices. Ayo Kanala stood in his dimly lit apartment, an espresso machine gurgling softly in the background, its rich aroma filling the air. He focused on the meticulous task of grinding coffee beans, the steady rhythm punctuated by the clinks of glassware. Each grind mirrored the tension building within him, almost ritualistic in nature. Khalilah Raye entered the room, her presence cutting through the haze of steam and coffee like a bright light. Flashes of the night before played in her mind, Ayo's fiery gaze, their unresolved argument simmering at the edges of intimacy. They hung in the air between them, heavy and unresolved. "Do you really think this is going to fix anything?" Khalilah crossed her arms, her brow furrowing as she leaned against the doorway, an uninvited observer in a world she was still trying to understand. Ayo clenched the grinder's handle, a wave of frustration washing over him. "I'm not trying to fix anything, just wanted some damn coffee." He poured the rich brew into two oversized mugs, the gentle clang of ceramic grounding him, a moment of tranquility before the storm he knew was brewing. Khalilah arched an eyebrow, her lips curling in a mix of humor and disbelief. "Coffee? Is that your answer to everything?" The words were sharp, but her tone danced with mirth, as if she were still caught in the aftermath of their argument. "It is when your life is one betray after another." He paused, pouring a dash of cream into his cup. "What's your answer, Khalilah? Does your high and mighty career like coffee?" "Enough." Khalilah stepped forward, her voice rising with the heat.